First of all, children absolutely can get infected. Children, when they do get infected, there's a much less likely to have a serious outcome. Is the chance zero? Absolutely not, because we see that some children do get seriously ill, but at a much, much lower rate than adults. In a study from South Korea, children from 10 to 19 transmitted the virus to adults as easily as adults transmitted to adults. So even though we don't know everything we need to know about children and transmission, we need to assume that A, they're vulnerable, and B, they can transmit. So we divide it up into green zones, yellow zones, and red zones. If you live in a green zone, it's reasonably easy to get your children back to school, provided the system is able to handle what to do if a child or a couple of children get infected. You have to have a process in the system to identify them, isolate them, make sure they're taken care of.
And if you're in a green zone, masks, yes? For kids?
Yes,
absolutely. Are face shields as effective for kids as masks?
It depends on the face shield. If it's one where you put it along the head and you have underneath is open, then things that are aerosolized can get under and in. It's unlike a mask, which is essentially semi-sealed. Mm-hmm. If you live in a yellow zone, in which you have a modest degree of infection, you almost certainly have to do some modifications when you bring the children back to school. And that may mean a hybrid of virtual together with in-person, physical spacing of the desks, alternating morning versus afternoon, one day versus the other. The third is really problematic. And that is if you live in a red zone where the level of infection is so high, invariably, you're going to have clusters of infection when children congregate in school. The best way to get your children back to school is, as a community, do everything you can if you're in a red zone to convert your zone to a yellow zone and then convert it to a green zone. Rather than trying to force children back to school in a red zone, why don't you try and get whatever county, whatever town you live to be a yellow or a green zone?
Is there a way to prevent asymptomatic spread?
Well, let me give you the facts first, and then I'll directly answer your question. So about 40 to 45% of all of the people who are infected don't have any symptoms at all. About 50% of all the transmissions occur from an asymptomatic person to an uninfected person. So asymptomatic spread is critical, which is the reason why we make the recommendation of universal wearing of masks. Because if you don't know that you are infected and you don't know somebody else is infected, you protect each other by wearing a mask. We need to be practical and reasonable with masks. For example, if you're jogging, sometimes you look, you don't see somebody for 200 feet. There's no reason to have the mask over your face. What I usually do is I pull it down and I enjoy the fresh air. When I pass someone or come into closer contact, I pull the mask up. And it's really simple to do. In fact, this evening I am going to go out for a walk. So I'll walk out of the house like this, say hello to a few people. Once I get on the trail and there's nobody there, I just do this. And then if I happen to reach a point where there are a bunch of people, just go and put it right back up. It's very simple.
You said we may see a vaccine as soon as November, but once we do, how long will it take to distribute to those families who may not be high risk?
And the priority should be frontline workers and healthcare workers who are putting themselves in danger first. Then there are people who have underlying conditions who, if they do get infected, they have a problem. Then they have essential members of society. And then the fourth group is everybody else.